Welcome to the Believe in Texans podcast alongside former Houston Texans wide receiver, six-year NFL veteran Cecil Shorts III. I am Patrick Creighton, host of Area 45 on Sportsradio 610, your flagship home of the Houston Texans. And Cecil coming off the bye week, the start of the gauntlet. 3 games, 11 days, all teams that are, let's say, playoff caliber. And this first one here against the Miami Dolphins, the most important, kind of seen as the linchpin. Got to beat the Dolphins if you're going to believe you have a chance against the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens. Well, the Houston Texans handled their business on Sunday, and they did it with their defense. They did it with special teams and just enough offense to win a game against the Miami Dolphins. And, in the beginning of the year, Cecil, we thought this team could be an offensive juggernaut. And the defense had a chance to be good. The defense is carrying. This is a defensive-oriented team right now. This team is led by its defense. It's not how we thought it was going to go, but it worked out on Sunday.
Yeah, it did. And I think you said it right. Defense is playing really, really good right now. You got the pass rush. I think you have guys playing in that defensive line like Tim Settle that are exceeding expectations. Of course, you expected Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson to do what they've been doing. More than 22 sacks together. They both had a sack yesterday, sack fumble. And then the lockdown in the secondary has been outstanding. I mean, honestly, Derek Stingley, in my opinion, is the best corner in the league, man. He's top two and not number two. But not just him. You got Kamari Lassiter on the other side. You got Kalen Bullock. You got these guys playing at a high level. And I'll tell you what, it's good to see Christian Harris back yesterday. Henry To'oTo'o was playing well. Devin White's getting some reps and doing decent. So you got a good nucleus of guys that are rotating in and playing well. And overall, the defense definitely is holding it down right now for the offense. And hopefully the offense can catch up because they're going to need to score some points, not only in December, but come playoff time to make a deep playoff run.
Were you surprised the Sheriff of Harris 82% of the defensive snaps?
That was more than I thought it would be. You know what I mean? He's been gone for, I guess, 15, 16 weeks. It seemed like forever. And when you're going against an explosive offense that does as many motions as Miami does, that has as many speed and playmakers that Miami does, I would think they would try to kind of slowly build him in there. But 82%, man, he looked good out there. And it's just good to have him back on the field. Because when Aziz and him on the field together, that can be a scary sight for defenses.
Christian Harris, by the way, 8 tackles in the ball game yesterday. 8 tackles, 4 solo, and he was kind of everywhere. He was in the mix. He did not look shy. He was talking some trash.
He had a lot built up over those 15 weeks, man. He was ready to unleash it.
It's funny because CJ was talking about Sting and how Sting don't really talk much. He just kind of and then just does his thing. Christian Harris talking enough smack for both of them.
That's true. That's definitely true.
He was very happy to let everybody have it. And of course, speaking of Derek Stingley Jr., he kind of put his stamp for All Pro in that game yesterday. It wasn't just that he had 2 picks. It's when he had the 2 picks and who he was covering when he got those 2 picks. He took the ball once from Tyreek Hill, but that second pick, the one that seals the game, he literally ripped it out of Tyreek Hill's hands. I mean, that was as impressive an interception as you're ever going to see. That was your quintessential 50-50 ball that the wide receiver has both hands on. At that point, it's a 90-10 ball. And Sting ripped it out of his hands. I mean, that was just crazy. And that play seals the win for the Houston Texans. And like you said, top 2, but not number 2.
Not number 2 at all, man. You mentioned it, the timing of it. And then just being on the sideline yesterday, and watching him go mano y mano versus Tyreek Hill the entire game. And what
Love
the two
that.
interceptions
Love
he
that.
has, it wasn't zone coverage, it was him press coverage. The first interception, he ran the route for Tyreek Hill. He pressed him, right, running right with him side by side. Oh, I'm about to run an out route. Let me step in front of that. Picks it off right there. He is just playing at a high level, man. And we all knew he had talent coming out of LSU. And then the thing for him at LSU, even in the league, was can he stay healthy? And when you're staying healthy and you're making plays, your confidence builds. And he's a guy that can do it all. His ball skills are top tier in the NFL when it comes to cornerbacks. I mean, I don't think there's not a cornerback better when the ball's in the air. They can come down with it and make the play. Like he is exceptional at that. And D'Amico Ryans was talking about it after the game, like, hey, that he doesn't say much, but he's the type of guy that doesn't want any help. Like he prides, I don't want any help. I'm shutting down whoever the guy is. I'm shutting down that side of the field. And you got to remember, Tyreek Hill was voted number one player in the league last year by his peers. He was voted number one player in the league by his peers. And Stingley just went out there and shut him completely down, a non-factor. He was physical in tackling yesterday. He was physical when press coverage. He was just making plays everywhere. He is a true number one corner. Again, he's a top two corner in the league and not number two.
One of the things we talked about on Area 45 last week was, so I know this isn't what the Texans normally do, right? This isn't how they normally set up their defense, but I really wanted Sting one-on-one with Tyreek Hill. Make him follow Tyreek Hill wherever. And then you got Kamari Lassiter and a safety over the top on Jalen Waddle. Make Tua go to his third and fourth options, because he don't like to go that long. They like to get the ball out in lightning
Quick.
speed.
Mhm.
All their pass, they throw the shortest distance air passes in the league. A lot of behind the line, a lot of at the line. Their goal is to get the ball to their playmakers as fast as possible, get them to make a guy miss, and then make room. And you look at that game yesterday, Tyreek Hill was targeted 7 times. He had 2 catches for 36 yards.
Mm.
Jalen Waddle was targeted twice, didn't have a catch.
Mm.
Their leading receiver in yards was Malik Washington, of which 90% of people watching this right now are going, who the hell is that guy?
Rookie.
Well, he had 5 catches for 52 yards. Jonnu Smith had 9 catches for 48 yards. 5.3 yards per catch. That is nothing. We talked about how last week against the Jets, the Dolphins didn't give up a sack to the Jets, but they didn't have a pass play longer than 23 yards. And how important it was, can the Texans defense not give up those big chunk plays to a Miami team that has speed to burn? Well, the Texans gave up 2 pass plays the entire game of 20 yards or more. They were 20 and 21 yards. That's it. Derek Stingley, who was thrown at 10 times, allowed 6 receptions, 30 yards. These were all passes they're throwing behind the line and at the line, and Sting's making tackles right away. And when they challenged him down the field, well, he picked them off twice.
Yep.
Also had 2 tackles for loss. So Derek Stingley had a hell of a game. And how about Kalen Bullock?
Oh, man.
Man, I know that it's hard to be a safety and be defensive player of the year, but he's got 5 picks. And he ought to be at least getting some down ballot votes, because it wasn't just that he had a pick. This was late in the first half. Chance for the Dolphins to essentially, get even in this game. And deep in Texans territory, Kalen Bullock gets a pick and then returns it 68 yards down like the Miami 7.
Yep.
And it got the Texans a field goal going into the half. That was a big swing. That was a big moment, because the Texans had the ball with 1:57 to go in the first half, and they were up, I think, 12-6. And, hey, you get a touchdown here, and then you get the ball first to start the second half. That's a big opportunity. And for some reason, Jared Patterson snapped the ball before CJ Stroud was ready. Ball hits him in the helmet, bounces off. He can't grab it. It's a fumble. Dolphins take over.
Mm.
So the Texans, who have found ways to shoot themselves in the foot at random times, inexplicably, it wasn't a false start. It wasn't a hold, but it was a why the hell did you just snap the ball moment.
Mm-hmm.
And Kalen Bullock bailed them out as the defense bailed them out many times yesterday. The defense played like an elite caliber defense on Sunday against a team that can be very hard to defend.
I tell you what, if the defense continues in that area, they're playing like the defense alone, not the team, but the defense and special teams too. Because that play from Frank Ross yesterday, the fake punt was huge yesterday. Now he did fumble at the end. I'm glad we got it back, but that was a huge call. But the defense is playing like a Super Bowl caliber defense, right? When you're creating 4 turnovers, when you're shutting down the opponent's best 2 receivers, when you get rid of the running game completely, when you shut down that high-powered offense, and you look like that, you're getting pressure from your best ends and your interior. Your defense is doing everything they can to put you in positions to win. They are the reason you scored touchdowns yesterday, basically. Like they are the reason you got points because they put you in short fields. They gave you that momentum. They gave you the ball, right? So that was just humongous yesterday. They're playing lights out. Kalen Bullock, you got to give Casario some credit here. Derek Stingley, he drafted. Jalen Petrie, he drafted. Kalen Bullock, 5 interceptions, he drafted. Kamari Lassiter, I think he has 4 interceptions, he drafted. He's doing a heck of a job drafting that secondary, understanding what they're looking for, and type of athlete and character and makeup in their mind, who they're looking for, type of player they want on that defense, man, because they're going out there making plays. To have 5 picks, to play the free safety position as a rookie and making play. He had a big pass break, a big PBU yesterday as well. The way he's finding the quarterback and not going off, because it's for a quarterback, his job is to look off the safety, right? His job is to find ways to get his receivers open, little nuances that they do. Look off safeties, look this way, they come back to their read, and he's not falling for it. For the most part, he's staying true with his eyes, and that's great for a rookie DB. All DBs, they get in trouble by having bad eye discipline, right? When they're looking at the wrong place, when they're looking at the wrong thing at the wrong time. He seems like he's looking at the perfect thing at the perfect time, making plays in the biggest moments. When you have secondaries doing that as a rookie, you are putting together one of the best defensive back rooms in the NFL. What you're doing, you're growing. You're not there yet, but you're growing one. So for Casario, D'Amico, and those guys, man, they're having this defense really, really rolling at the right time.
Now, there is the video going around of, from the draft 3 years ago when the Texans took Derek Stingley Jr. at number 3, and the Jets front office high-fiving and celebrating and Newton and Watton and because they were going to get to take Sauce Gardner.
Sauce Gardner.
And how they thought, oh, they got the best guy and they're, yucking it up and having a great time. And I'd like to remind everybody that GM is fired and that head coach is also fired. And everybody who was in that room going to be out of a job at the end of this year. Yeah. So just remember, while you were thinking you won 3 years ago, well, the proof is in the pudding, and 3 years later, you didn't just lose, you lost badly. Oh, congratulations, though, to Sauce Gardner. Did get an interception yesterday, his first one in 2 years, and he now has 3 career interceptions to Derek Stingley's 11.
Oh, wow.
You won. Good job, Jets. Jest, jest. That's why the Jets are who they are, and the Texans are going where they're going. It was a tremendous performance by the defense, and you mentioned Danielle Hunter with another sack and a half yesterday. He's up to 12 sacks on the season. He leads the league in pressures. He leads the league in turnovers off pressures, and like he has so many like wild stats. Just like I didn't even know this was a stat, and it's a stat, and Danielle Hunter is number 1 in it. That's a guy who should be getting DPOY consideration. Isn't going to because it's not the sexy name or whatnot, but You look at every number, which is like fourth in sacks, and he's first in about a dozen other categories, including most pressures. And like that's a guy who should be getting some love for Defensive Player of the Year. Will Anderson Jr. also with a sack and a strip. That's now 10.5 sacks for Will Anderson Jr., your reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year. The bookends for the Texans have done a tremendous job. Those guys, they get after the quarterback, they stop the run, they get tackles for loss, they shed blocks, they wreak havoc, they're everywhere. But as you said earlier when you mentioned about Tim Settle, the Texans have gotten really good production from the interior of the defensive line. Settle, Mario Edwards, Danico Autry. Before he got injured yesterday, Foley Fatukasi is terrific at stopping the run. That's really why they brought him in here. They wanted a big horse that would shut down running lanes. And he was actually doing that yesterday before he got injured in that game. And the Texans have gotten very strong production. The defensive tackle position is something coming into the season people thought was a weakness, that there was a lack of depth. And again, as you said, credit to Nick Caserio, who knows more than the average fan. They don't just have enough guys. They've got depth. They've got guys who aren't even playing because they've got so much depth at defensive tackle and how good they've been. Same thing at linebacker. Linebacker was considered a position of weakness. Linebacker is a strength on this team.
The depth, yeah.
It is a strength. Christian Harris playing like the sheriff. Henry To'oTo'o is everywhere. Azeez didn't even play. And their linebackers were everywhere. And when you get that, where you're going to have Azeez and Henry and Christian Harris, where you can get all three of those guys on the field at the same time, the heads are going to get thumped. Those guys are looking to swing lumber. And I really I think that there's a lot of different combinations the Texans can now use as they're getting healthier. That bye week, man, they really need 13 games in a row is a long way to go without a bye. And this team, they looked crisper, they looked faster, they just looked more energized than they did 2 weeks ago, where they really looked run down. So I think that bye week certainly had a lot to do with helping this team find its rhythm. And, you mentioned the special teams. The fake punt, 35 yards for Dario Gumbawale, who the official said fumbled at the end, but as we saw in the replay, the elbow was down. And that elbow was actually clearly down, and I don't know how that ball was ruled a fumble in real time to begin with, because this wasn't a hard call. This wasn't a call where he's blocked up by 7 other bodies. No, this is clear as day. And that's how the referee, it's like the ruling on the field is a fumble. Upon review, it is not boom, it didn't even take a half a second. That's how blatantly obvious. You have never seen a replay done faster than you saw on that play. Replay time, 0.1 seconds. Normally, it's 6 minutes just to get him to say, the play is under review. All right, 0.1 seconds. It was done.
Yeah.
And, Mike McDaniel saying how, we were ready for it. Yeah, you looked ready for it. That's why you gave up 35 yards on it, man. You were definitely ready for that. You saw it coming. Good job.
How can you be ready for it? You didn't stop it. Like that doesn't make sense to me. If you were ready for it, you would have stopped the play. It wouldn't have happened. So don't just say, I hate when coaches just say anything. You weren't ready for it. Great call by D'Amico and Frank Ross. Way to execute, man. That was a huge play.
Yes. I know it's a sin, for a head coach to ever say anything good about another head coach. The one that you just played. Like that's like a sin. You're not allowed.
Come on, dude.
Can't just say, you know what?
Staff together. Like, come on.
It's like it was a great play call by them,
It was.
It just, sometimes it works for us, sometimes it works for them, and today it worked for them. But the special teams, and I'll tell you what, the punt returns that they got from Tank Dell, hitting the X button, hitting the Y button, hitting the triangle button, man. He's making guys miss, turning invisible. I don't know how Tank did half the moves that he did, but man, he's picking up double-digit yards on all these punts, just making guys miss. And it's like, how did he did it again? Tank was phenomenal.
Pat. why not all year? Like if that's another way. We talked about this before. That's another way to get a playmaker ball in his hands. Get a playmaker the ball in his hands. That's it. Keep Tank at punt returner. That he was exceptional in college at it. Exceptional. I get it, slight frame. You worry about him getting injured, but if you want to get him going, if you truly want to get him involved, his punt returns yesterday were just another first down. He gets 10 yards. That's a first down for the offense. Not only is that the first down, he gets some confidence. He gets some mojo, some rhythm going. Like, I got the ball in my hands. He feels good. So a tough ball comes, he can make that play, make that catch. That's a confidence booster. And at any point, I mean, any point, he's going to be a game breaker back there. No offense to Robert Woods or whoever else was returning. Steven Sims did a good job. He had a return last season for a touchdown against the Baltimore Ravens. But when you look at what Tank can bring to the table and the excitement he brings to the arena, man, anytime he touch it in open field, he's going to make a guy miss. He's going to get positive yards. Man, it's just a time bomb waiting to explode. He's Deshaun Jackson back there. That's exactly who he is. He's Deshaun Jackson back there deep. Please, I'm begging him. Great adjustment, putting him back there for the entire game. I'm hoping that continues as the rest of December comes and the playoffs.
Yeah, you can only surmise that Tank hasn't been back there all year because look, he was coming off an injury and he was also coming off being shot, and
Yeah.
they wanted to make sure he was going to get through the season. But now, as we're getting to this end gauntlet here, 3 games in 11 days and 4 games to end the season, it's kind of gone moved more to an all hands on deck type of scenario, and it's like, okay, Tank, you're the guy. Let's see what you got. And now
Mhm.
they're less afraid to put him back there because, well, we're almost to the end of the season, and this is where you need guys. This is where you need your playmakers to step up and make plays. And Tank
Yes.
did that yesterday. Tank
Big time.
absolutely stepped up and made plays. Now, Cecil, let's talk about the offense because I think there's some good, bad, and ugly here. Let's start with the fact that on Friday, the Texans made some shifts to their offensive alignment. And after having Zachary Taylor, who is a tackle, who they were playing at guard because apparently Juice Scruggs suffered a foot injury in the last game and is going to be out a few weeks. Kenyon Green was put on the, eligible to return from IR, but they did not activate him. So on Friday, they kind of went to the last scenario, which is they moved Titus Howard from right tackle to left guard, something they have done to him previously. They know that he is a better right tackle than a left guard, but they did this anyway because, well, it's kind of a testament to their lack of depth and poor performance at left guard this year by Kenyon Green, by Juice Scruggs. I think it shows they have zero faith in Kendrick Green to play the position. And they put Blake Fisher, their rookie tackle, at right tackle and said, hey, we're going to get the guys who we think are our 5 best offensive linemen on the field. It's something that you and I have talked about in the past of, do they really not have a choice? Do they have to move Titus inside and play Blake Fisher because he's their next best offensive lineman?
Hmm.
Well, they did that. And I'm not going to say they were great, but they were better.
Hmm.
Did you feel like they were better than what we've been seeing from the Texans offensive line?
I feel like they were better. I do. Was it perfect? No. You couldn't run the ball to save your life yesterday. But as far as pass protection, as far as having opportunities to protect your quarterback, to give him time in the pocket, I thought it was better. Was it perfect? No. But you did have a guy in Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard play on the same side, and they have played on the same side before. So there is some continuity there, right? I think the rookie right tackle, Blake Fisher, didn't do a bad job yesterday at all either. So I do think there's some good to it. I think that I would like to see the best 5 guys on the field. I don't care. And personally, I thought think Kenyon Green should be back on the field. I don't care if you open his window or not. I think he should stay off of it. I think his resume showed enough that he can't handle what's been going on in the pass protection or whatever the case may be. But having those five guys there, I think you make some good strides moving forward. Then they can build on what they did this past Sunday until next Saturday in Arrowhead. I think you can build on some things because it's going to. I'm assuming it's going to be cold. I haven't checked the weather report, but I'm assuming it's going to be cold. You're going to have to be able to move guys and run the football. So when it comes to continuity, keep that same five in there and build on what they did this past Sunday. Not great, but I did see some good things from the offensive line.
You mentioned they couldn't run the football. Dare's 35-yard run on the fake punt is the long run. It also made him the leading rusher on the team. Mixon, 12 carries, 23 yards. It's like either he's 100-plus yards or he's 40 or less, and they can't do anything. The passing game was surprisingly, I'm going to say, below expectation. CJ was 18 of 26. That's pretty solid numbers. But 131 yards is holy dink and dunk, Cat Batman.
Yeah.
And this was a game where both teams lived in the dink and dunk land because Tua completed 29 passes for 196 yards. That's an even lower average than CJ.
Yeah.
I mean, both of these teams were reticent to throw the ball down the field, and I wonder how much of that had to do with, maybe the Texans trying to play it safe because you reconfigured your offensive line, and then as the game went on, continuing to play it safe because their defense was playing so strong, you didn't want to have your offense potentially have something happen and back your defense up because they were playing well enough to win the game for you. So maybe that was something that happened as the game went on. They decided to stay conservative because the defense was playing so well. But I really thought that the passing game was almost anemic at times. And were it not for the fact that CJ and Nico Collins have that Bluetooth connection, it could have been ugly.
Nico only had 17 yards receiving, right?
Yeah, but he did have 2 touchdowns.
He had 2 touchdowns, no doubt about it.
And he had that catch where CJ found him, I want to say for a 3rd down conversion while he was being tackled. Like CJ is being tackled and somehow got the ball to Nico down the field for a 1st down. I don't know how he threw the football. Outside of that connection where CJ and Nico, when it becomes a scramble drill, those 2 guys seem to be able to have this like magnetic complexion where no matter what's going on, they can find each other. The offense, the passing game did seem kind of, it seemed out of sync. And like I said, even though CJ completed 18 of 26, it's a high completion percentage. They didn't get the ball down the field.
They didn't, and they tried to early from the first play of the game on. Like they were play action first play of the game. They tried to take a shot down the field, and there wasn't really nothing open. I wonder. I'm curious to watch this all 22 film when it comes out tomorrow on Tuesday. I really want to see what the defensive backs, what the secondary was doing against the Texans receivers. Because it seems like a lot of the time that he did get sacked, CJ, yesterday, it was coverage sacks. Like, it didn't seem like anybody was open, right? He was scrambling, he was looking. And besides the 2 touchdowns, which were big moments in the red zone to Nico Collins, didn't seem like there was too much separation within the secondary from the receivers. So I'm interested to see what was CJ looking at. What did he see? Jalen Ramsey's on the other side. He's a definite number 1 cornerback. He's a really good guy, really good corner in this league. Been doing it for a while. So I want to see that matchup with him and Nico. But I'm intrigued because when you can't run the ball, your passing game has to be effective, right? And thank goodness for the defense and special teams yesterday, because honestly, 134 yards is just not good enough. It's just not going to. It's just not going to. You can't sustainably win like that in this league. Now, in December, and I'll say it again, good teams find ways to win. You don't care how you win. You don't care how it looks. You just want to win. But as a fan and as a media guy, you want to see teams play well. And the defense is playing well enough as a whole. The offense is not playing well enough as a whole to make a long playoff run. So I'm interested to see that all 22 film tomorrow. Because to me, there was moments he had time in the pocket. but there was nowhere to throw. And I'm like, well, was Nico double? Was Tank double? Was Schultz not getting open? Were they just completely locked down? Why was he checking down so much? Or was it short? Like, just what was there, what wasn't there, and what adjustments that they could have made, they didn't, right? So I'm interested to see that film tomorrow.
No, I thought there was really only one sack where the protection was blown. And that was, I think it was the first quarter on the second drive where they got two guys coming right up the middle because they had basically confused the center and the left guard. And they got one guy to engage with Titus, and then they brought two guys in between Titus and Patterson that didn't get picked up. And that sack ended a drive. I think it was their second drive of the game. I think it was really the only time they couldn't they didn't figure out how to handle the pressure, or they misdiagnosed the defense was doing. The other ones, like you said, I think they were all CJ didn't have anywhere to go, and in trying to find where to go, eventually got sacked. Yeah, I think Chop Robinson had a sack like that too, where CJ was trying to buy time and he just kind of clipped him on the foot as he was running and tripped him and got a sack for it.
I tell you what, Mechie had a couple opportunities yesterday to make some big plays, which would have been huge in the game, and he didn't convert on those plays as well. So when you look at, I just want to see it. When you have a guy like Mechie who is ascending, who's playing well, but you got to make those plays, man. Like, we're gonna need him to make those plays next week, the week after, and playoff time to really have this offense and this team make a long run. You can't miss those opportunities to make a big play down the field.
No, and at least one of those was 6.
Yeah, so, for sure.
You know, it's frustrating, and I'm sure Mechie's frustrated with himself and that too. I'm sure he'd love to have that back. Where are you with Mechie? And this is a guy who came out of college with a lot of had a great career at Alabama, a lot of expectations, had the knee injury, then had cancer. This is now his second year removed from the cancer. Are you surprised he's having as much struggle as he is? How patient are you willing to be with him? Are you concerned that maybe this is just who he is? Where are you right now with John Mechie?
That's a good question. I'm going to see how the year pans out, but in my opinion, you need to draft a receiver or bring a receiver in to be your number 3, depending what you want to do with Diggs, right? I'm not sure if you want to sign Diggs back or not. That'll be big for me. But Mechie is a guy that I think he's playing for his roster spot the rest of the season. I think you have to keep an eye on him. If he plays well and continues to ascend and make plays in big situations and in the playoffs, and you know, next two games are prime time, I'm assuming, with Kansas City and the Ravens. If he can make some plays and be consistent there, I think he'll earn himself a roster spot for 2025. But if he struggles, if he is not who we all thought he could be with a second round pick, right? If he's not who we think he needs to be, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the roster next year. You know what I mean? He's that number 3 slot, the number 4 slot has to be a playmaker. And if you're not a playmaker that can make plays consistently, then they can find somebody else from the draft, from free agency, whatever the case may be. But you got to be consistent. Noah Brown last year, when he came in, there's numerous games last year. He had over 100 yards when his name was called. When his number was called, it was 100-yard games, 2 of them. I want to say they were back to back. And you need that type of production when your top guys are down. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm not giving up on him. I want him to succeed. I want him to do well. But just from a business standpoint, like, he's playing for his roster spot now. Like, this is your perfect opportunity. There's no Diggs. You're the clear-cut number 3 receiver based off of your snaps that you're getting and your targets, but you got to make the plays when they're there. If you cannot make the plays, I wouldn't be surprised if they draft one or bring another guy in.
You know, you mentioned Noah Brown. You know, Noah Brown had those 2 phenomenal games, and then he died. And when he came back, he couldn't catch the football because he's not really healthy. And, you know, people are like, well, they got to bring Noah Brown back. I'm like, this is Noah Brown his whole career. The guy's got all the talent in the world. He's never healthy. You know, look at him in Washington this year. He had that one big catch, end of the game, touchdown, Hail Mary. And what happened? Well, he's on IR. Yeah. It sucks because you hate seeing guys get hurt. But that's just kind of who Noah Brown is. So I understand why they didn't bring him back. For Mechie, he's got to be able to produce. Now, let me ask you about Xavier Hutchinson. Xavier Hutchinson has a nice catch yesterday, and he's a guy who's got good size, height, strength, weight. Sometimes his route running leaves a lot to be desired. We see him round off routes, and because he rounds off routes, defenders can undercut him. Um, is that something that you think they can coach him up on that? I mean, look, this is the second year in the league now, so you'd figure this would be a point of emphasis already. Is that something where you feel like that is something even going into his third year, they could coach him up on that? Or, you kind of who you are after 2 years in the league and you haven't fixed those mistakes?
I think they can coach him up. I think it's a mix of a few things. I think the position he plays, he's behind Nico, right? I think he's behind Nico Collins, so that's going to be a tough ask. Number two, I think he struggles with separation in some of his routes. I do. But I think three, you have to find a way to use him in the passing game more. Like, what does he do well? Right? Is he kind of the similar build as Nico? Can he run similar routes as Nico's running? Right? Why not have both of those guys in the game at the same time running similar routes? You got to use him to his ability. What does he do well? Don't put him in a box. Okay, he's an X receiver. He can only play X. No, put him at Z. Put him at F. Put him in the slot. Put him out. Turn him out wide. So Bobby has to find ways to get the most out of your guys. So if he runs a glance route, get him in the game and let him run a heck out of a glance route. You know what I mean? Like, you have to find ways to use your guys to build that confidence. And then as you're building that confidence, then you continue to develop, the rest of the route tree or whatever the case may be to make him a complete receiver. But he is somebody I think you can develop, but I think he's in a box right now and not really being used in the way that he should be used or given the opportunities that he should be given.
All right, Cecil, now we've got to, come to the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and that's CJ Stroud. Your thoughts on the game CJ Stroud played? I said he was accurate, didn't throw the ball on the field very far. I would say that I felt that as the game went on, he was not looking at defenders as much as looking down, looking out, surveying the field, as much as we have seen him do during this season, where, we always see him looking at defenders and can't look down the field. I thought he did less of that on Sunday.
I truly, this is my humble opinion. I thought CJ played decently well. Like, I don't have many complaints. Again, I watched the all 22 film tomorrow. I have more for us the next time we chat, but I think he was okay. If you look at the stats, he was accurate. He was on point. Great job keeping his eyes down the field in the red zone and finding his safety blanket and Nico for two quality touchdowns. I do think he's holding the ball a tad bit long. Like, hit your check downs, right? Understand where your check down is. Especially, I think at the end of the half, he was holding the ball way too long. Like, you got to get rid of the ball quickly in those seconds that are so important. I think you could have had an extra play if he would have got rid of the ball quickly. He kind of scrambled and went to his right, and time was running off. I'm like, hey, you could have used. You could have just thrown the ball away and had two more plays. So now you got three downs and then kick a field goal if you can't get a touchdown. I feel like he wasted too much time there, but I think he's on the right track. Like, I want him not to turn the ball over, make plays going down the field, feed your weapons, and I think he was doing that within the play calling yesterday. So I'm hoping that we continue to ascend and see more confident CJ as we go on. But again, I think I like what I seen from the offensive line yesterday. But the offensive line can only block for a certain so long. We got to get rid of the ball quickly. So I like no turnovers. Just want to see the ball out quickly, more down the field shots to Tank and Nico. So this week against a good Kansas City team, I'm interested to see how he does. But I was satisfied with how he played yesterday.
All right, so your grade for the team in this game against Miami. Give me a grade, a letter grade for the defense, a letter grade for the offense, a letter grade for your specials.
A for the defense. I couldn't ask for much more. I honestly couldn't ask for much more. Four turnovers, multiple sacks. Great job tackling in space yesterday. That was the biggest thing. That's one of my keys for the victory yesterday. When you have guys like Achan and Jonnu Smith and Waddle and Hill, you have to be physical and tackle in space. Speed guys hate physical defenses. They hate being physical. If you remember Tyreek Hill in the playoffs getting jammed by, I can't remember the guys in Tennessee now, getting jammed and thrown to the ground in the playoffs in the winter. Like, speed guys don't like hands on them. Speed guys don't like physical contact. And that's what they brought yesterday from Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley and whoever else was on the receiver. They did a good job being physical, good job creating turnovers. Linebackers playing at a high level right now. Defense gets an A plus. Special teams. To me, punt return, excellent. Great job on coverage yesterday. And then the fake punt, you converted all your extra points and field goals. You get an A plus as well. Offense, you get a C. You get a C. I think when you can't run the football, your play action didn't work as effectively as you would like to. I do think you scored touchdowns when you needed to. You scored enough to get the victory yesterday, enough points to get the victory yesterday, but I'm expecting more, right? And again, I want to see great job with no turnovers. Great job being accurate by CJ, but you got to be able to run the football, especially in December, especially if you go on the road. You have to be able to run the football. And then your playmakers got to be fed. You got to feed Nico. So he can't leave the game with 17 yards, right? He has to be able to in the field make plays. So you gotta scheme him open if he's going to be followed by their best corner, right? You got to scheme him open and find ways to get him the ball, tank the ball, Schultz and everybody else. I'll give them a C for yesterday.
Now I got an A plus for the defense, an A for specials, and a C minus for the offense. Hey, at least I didn't give him a D plus. All right. It wasn't a great game for the offense, but they scored when they needed to score, and they scored enough to get a win on a day where the defense, and particularly Derek Stingley Jr., put their stamp on this football game as the Texans come out with a 20-12 win over the Miami Dolphins. They clinch the AFC South for the second consecutive year. D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud, the first pair of what were rookie head coach and quarterback to win divisions and go to the playoffs in each of their first two seasons together. And they essentially put the Dolphins season on life support. The Dolphins are now 6-8. They are way behind in the race for that final playoff spot. And they're in a world of trouble right now. In the exact same situation that the Texans are in with the, hey, got to play a bunch of games in a real tight window. Dolphins season is in a lot of trouble. The Texans clinch the AFC South as they head to Kansas City on Saturday for a meeting with the 13-1 Kansas City Chiefs. May or may not have Patrick Mahomes in this game. Patrick Mahomes suffered a high ankle sprain in the game on Sunday. Their backup quarterback is Carson Wentz.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I am not advocating for an injury to Patrick Mahomes, but let's say, you're the Kansas City Chiefs, you're 13-1. You really don't need to play Patrick Mahomes for 2 games in like 4 days because, well, it's more important that he's healthy for the postseason. But on one end, you've got Carson Wentz, who ever since he suffered that injury in what looked like an MVP caliber season has been a pick machine. And on the other end, you have the Houston Texans secondary, second in the NFL with 19 interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say I don't want to see that matchup.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I'm not going to say I don't want to see how many times could they intercept Carson Wentz, because that could be another game where the defense is the unit that carries that team at Arrowhead. And would that be a playoff precursor? No, of course not, because Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be playing. But that doesn't mean I don't want to see them intercept Carson Wentz a half a dozen times. So, and you know what? If you get that victory and you go to 10 wins on the season, it does, give you a little boost as you come home Christmas Day, take on the Baltimore Ravens. You are 0-4 against Lamar Jackson, and every time you play him, he whoops on you.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, it would be nice to not get whooped by Lamar Jackson. And you know what? Maybe a win against the Baltimore Ravens on Christmas Day might change some seeding so that getting to the playoffs, looking at the playoffs right now, who would the Texans host? The Baltimore Ravens. I'd really like to just not play the Ravens. Play the Chargers, play the Steelers, just not the damn Ravens. That's all. That's all I'm asking. just not the
Oh
damn Ravens.
wow! Wait, so that the playoffs were today, they would host the Ravens
They host the
because
Ravens.
Pittsburgh's winning the AFC North.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's in first place. They're
Ah,
10-4.
oof. Okay. Yeah,
So
I don't.
you've right now you look at the playoff picture,
That's tough.
and the Ravens are the 5, the
Oof.
Broncos are the 6, and the Bolts are the 7.
Okay.
All right. Can we just get the Ravens out of the 5?
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yeah. Either 5, or is there a way we can move up to 3?
There is a way, but you're a game behind the Steelers.
Okay, so you got to basically have a better win total. Okay, better
So
record.
you got it there. So right now the Texans at 9-5, they're 4-1 in the division. They're 7-2 in the conference.
Okay.
The Steelers are 10-4. They're 3-1 in the division. They're 7-2 in the conference. The Texans' remaining schedule is Kansas City Saturday, Baltimore Christmas Day, and they wrap up the season in Tennessee against the fake Oilers. For the Steelers, they've got the Ravens on Saturday, and then they have the Chiefs on Christmas Day.
Oh.
And they end the season at home against Cincinnati and a very pissed off Joe Burrow.
Oh, yeah.
So
Okay.
the Steelers
Okay.
have a tougher schedule.
Yeah, you got a shot. You got a shot at 3. Okay.
They got a shot at 3. So you can get to 3, or somehow the Ravens fall to 6.
Yeah.
Yes, please, and thank you, football gods.
Yeah.
But it's possible. He is Cecil Shorts, former Houston Texans wide receiver, 6-year NFL veteran. I'm Patrick Creighton, host of Area 45, Sports Radio 610, your flagship home of the 2-time AFC South champion, Houston Texans. And that's not to say, for those of you who are unfamiliar with that term, that's not to say they've only won it twice. That's to say they've won it twice in a row. Somebody on the interwebs, I guarantee you, will send me a message on the Twitter and the X. Hey, they've won more than 2. Yes, we know. This is that they've won it twice in a row. Thank you, and you're welcome. My brother, we will talk again soon. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the Believe in Texans podcast wherever you get your podcasts, with the Believe in Texans podcast and the Believe Network, whether it's on Apple, on Spotify, on wherever you might be. Until next time, go Texans!